Reverend Malcom Hedding is a preacher, an author, and an international speaker. He currently preaches at the World Outreach Church in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Some notable achievements thus far have been that he is an ordained minister of 4 different Christian denominations. He has survived 2 assassination attempts. He is a veteran of the South African Defense Forces and fought in the Angolan War against the Cubans, and was crowned an African king for his efforts against the South African apartheid government. Ladies and gentlemen, please introduce Reverend Malcom Hedding.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ethan Hedding. Mr. Broadhead, staff, managers of the school, teachers and pupils, it's a great privilege to address you this morning. I'd like to talk to you about one part of the Bible in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 13, where the Apostle Paul says, "But now remain faith, hope and love. But the greatest of these is love." And I went to a school of 1,000 boys, and we had a principal. We took chapel like this, but every chapel service he read that passage. For every year that we were at school, we never changed. We thought he was mad, but he was not. It made a lasting impact on my life. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not called to importance in life. Not called so much to personally achieve as we are to embrace significance. Significance is far greater and more vital than importance. The Jewish theological world has a term for this that I'd like to speak to you about this morning. And that term is called Tikkun Olam. Tikkun Olam. It comes from the book of Genesis, where God tells Adam and Eve that they are to have dominion over the world. The word dominion there actually is incorrect in terms of the original language. The word is to tame it. To tame the world and make it perfect. In other words, we are called to repair the world. Some of the great repairers of our world are known to us. Mother Teresa is a great repairer of the world. The Reverend Martin Luther King was a repairer of the world. Nelson Mandela was a repairer of the world. And many others. They are high-profile examples of what it means to see life as a bigger challenge than yourself, than myself. But actually to embrace the principle to go into the life, into the world, to repair it. To take it like a wild horse and tame it and make something beautiful out of it. And believe me, our world is wild and it needs taming. And it's the obligation of every individual to give himself or herself to Tikkun Olam. It's not so much the great people that we know that is important. It's this, that every one of us can make a significant difference in our world, and we should set out to do so. And according to the Apostle Paul, there are 3 things that we need to accomplish that. And the first is faith, the certain knowledge that there is order in the world, and we have to contribute to it and to improve it. Faith, the certain knowledge that there is order in the world and that we have to contribute to it and repair it. And this is the call over your life and my life. At some point in our lives, we have to recognize that your life can make a big difference. In the same Jewish theological world, they say that to save one life is to repair the whole world. To save one life, to repair one life, is to save the whole world. I remember years ago, when I was in South Africa in one of my churches, we were driving down the road in the town, my wife and I, And on the street corner was a prostitute. She was a gorgeous girl, absolutely gorgeous, which caught our attention. And so we stopped the car. I got out the car, which is dangerous for a preacher to do, to approach a prostitute in town. I looked at her and I said to her, "What is your name?" She looked at me and she said, "My name is Tia." I said to her, "Tia, what are you doing here?" And tears rolled down her cheeks. So I said to her, "Get in the car." So we took her home. We gave her a bedroom, we cared for her, we got her medically treated, we helped her. She was the world. A few years later I was preaching in another church in another town, and at the end of the service, like this chapel, a gorgeous woman came out with a wonderful man on her side. Two beautiful sons on either side of her. She stood in front of me. I walked down the steps. As I got to the last step, she looked up at me. She said, "Do you know who I am?" I said, "I recognize you, but I can't place you." She said, "I am Tia." I am Tia. She didn't have to say another word. It was astonishing. The world was repaired. There's order in the world. We can have faith. We also have to have hope. Faith and hope. What is hope? A certain expectation that God will be, that good will be rewarded. A certain expectation that good will be rewarded. The Bible says, as you sow, you reap. It's true. Absolutely true. Let me tell you that your future is what you're doing today. Your future is nothing less than the present. Don't ever doubt it. Your future is the present. And what you're doing today will determine what you will be in the future. How important that is. There was a man called Nelson Mandela. I met him once. Well, Nelson Mandela was put away in jail for 27 years, much of which was on Robben Island, off the beautiful city of Cape Town. Interesting story. In South Africa at that time, you were not allowed to quote him or print an image of him. Nobody knew exactly what he looked like. No one heard from him. He was a nobody. He was a nothing. He had gone into obscurity. He was in the jail and the key was thrown away. But one day, at his inauguration, he became president of the country. Now listen to me. Standing beside him were his former tormentors. 3 of them. Big, strong men. He demanded that they be there. Why? Not to mock them, but to honor them. Because in jail, this Mandela, who was a highly educated man and a lawyer, asked his jailers, "Don't you want to do something better with your life?" He was a very humble man. And he said to them, "If you let me, I will tutor you and help you to get a degree. So you one day can emerge from this hell house of a prison and you can make something of significance in the world. In the lonely dark hours for 27 years in a forgotten cell at night, Nelson Mandela tutored 3 of his jails. And they graduated. They stood at his side when he was inaugurated first president of the country. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Tikkun Olam. He repaired the world because he had hope. And he knew that life is bigger than the individual. It's bigger than what you will become or I will become. It's bigger than your own dreams for yourself. Your life has to have significance. Not important. In those dark years of apartheid, it was my challenge to take on the apartheid government around the country. I pitched against it everywhere. I eventually was threatened with detention without trial, and I had to flee the country. The man I pitched against was P.W. Botha, the erstwhile president. President P.W. Botha, the infamous apartheid leader of South Africa. That brings me to my third point, and I'll tell you more, which is hope. Hope is the certain challenge that caring sacrifice, love is the certain challenge that caring sacrifice can transform and change lives. Love. The expectation that caring sacrifice can transform lives. Well, there was a man called Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I'm sure you've heard of him. German preacher. He ran from Germany during the Second World War or just before it, and he came to Brooklyn in New York. And he stood one day at the Hudson River. And as he stood gazing at the river, God spoke to him and asked him 2 questions. It's the 2 questions that God asks you and me today. Believe me. And these were the questions. Who are you? And what are you doing? So he knew that he'd have to go back to Germany and lay his life down for his people and oppose the Nazi government. Because he had to own up to the fact as to who he was in the world. He wrote a poem about it. And finally, he was hanged. But he loved his nation. And he speaks until today. P.W. Botha, believe it or not, I was preaching in the church one time, and after the service, the preacher received a phone call. And the preacher came to me, I was sitting in the lounge, he said, "You're not going to believe this." I said, "Try me." He said, "The ex-president, President P.W. Botha, wants to speak." This is the guy I preached against. This is the man that caused me to have to flee the country because I would have been detained without trial. He sat down, he looked at me. He said, I haven't called you here, Padre, for you to condemn me. Are we clear? I said, yes, sir. I am here, sir. What can I do for you? He said, you can help me. The truth is, his life was remarkably transformed. Remarkably transformed. But no one knows it. And he became one of my closest friends. Because I believed that love could help him. When I left that day, he was weeping and he said to us, please don't forget me. My dear friends, love is not a sentiment. It can be and should be a feeling to some degree, but it's not. It's a doing thing. You know, when I met my gorgeous wife, I've been married to one woman for 45 years. I'm one of the greatest lovers in the world. To love one woman for 45 years makes you a great man. Good place to say amen.
So I can say amen.
Anyone?
Amen.
Thank you, sir, for Hedding. So, I used to pedal 12 miles on my bicycle to see her for 20 minutes, and then I pedal 12 miles back. How was that? Why did I do that? Because I loved her. I could have gone to the local charity in the town and said, I saw a prostitute on the side of the street. I'd like to give you $100 toward your work to rehabilitating prostitutes. And I could have walked out of there and said, I love the prostitute today. But I didn't. I took her home. Dietrich Bonhoeffer heard the voice of God saying, who are you? And what are you doing? I want to ask you that question. Who are you? Who are you?